Kia ora koutou katoa. This is The Breakdown. We start tonight's show on the saddest of notes. We tragically lost today Chief, Māori All Black, husband and father, Sean Wainui. I know I speak on behalf of all of the rugby community, giving our support and our thoughts to Sean's whānau and friends. So John Kerwin, Mills, Muliaina, JK, this has been an incredibly difficult day for a lot of people. I was incredibly saddened to hear the news. I know you know Sean very, very well. Your thoughts on what's happened today?
Oh, well, Francesca, Fiorella, my wife, Luca, my son, but especially Nico, I just had to call him now. So, you know, Sean was a beautiful young boy. Like, they were best mates at primary school. And obviously we went off to Italy. I know that Sean messaged Nico last week to wish him well, and you know, to Pete and Catherine and Luke and Whitney, and I didn't know Paige, but and also his kids. It's like, I've just been feeling sick all day. It's just one of those things that you just do not want to hear. Seeing him grow into a man, although from a distance, you know, and the mana that he held, and it's just wrong, you know, just feels so sad.
Mills, the impact he's had on the communities he's been around, just what we've seen in terms of rugby, the Chiefs, Māori All Blacks, he was part of the Crusaders. He's a man that has grown, and to lose him at just the age of 25 is just so tragic.
Yeah, hard to believe. Someone that's been around for a wee while. He's only, you know, 25, and sort of, I suppose that deep sadness has sort of echoed, you know, throughout the rugby community, and it probably will for a long time. But you know, I didn't know him personally, but you know, every single time you were in front of him or you interviewed him, he was a real character. You know, that's what came across. A lot of guys, you know, they're a character off the field, and then when you stick them in front of a camera, they shy off it and they use, you know, cliches and things like that. He didn't. He's a very proud man, very proud of his, you know, Māori heritage, and that came across, you know, when you're sort of speaking to him. So I suppose, like both of you guys, you know, real sad about this, and our hearts go out to his whānau.
And I think about him as a rugby player, JK, and the way that he developed as a player. And like you say, he's so vastly experienced just for the age of 25. And I always thought to myself, you know what, he was an easy guy to select and pick because he never let you down. Fundamentally sound, but still improving, JK, still finding the best of his game, and such a huge part of the Chiefs in the last few years.
And just getting better, Goldie, you know, like, I caught up with his dad just before the lockdown, actually, and I was talking about, I reckon he could play 12, you know, because playing a lot on the wing, but he just kept getting better and better, kept working on his game, you know, and brought something new every year. I mean, scored 5 tries this season, a record. So, yeah, just a huge loss. And
his role inside the Māori All Blacks as well, Mills, just so significant in terms of the fact we know how important his culture was to him. Another team that he couldn't wait to represent, and it just meant so much to him.
Oh, constantly, yeah. And what he expressed, you know, not only for the Māoris, that he wore his heart on his sleeve when he played for the Chiefs as well, because, as I mentioned before, he was so proud of his upbringing and his Māori heritage, and when he put that Māori jersey on, he just expressed himself. So he was a player that sort of really came across that, you know, whatever he sort of did, whichever sort of jersey he wore, he was going to do it with, you know, pride and passion.
And yeah, I remember, you know, it wasn't easy for him either. He was at St. Peter's College, didn't get picked up in the Blues Academy, went across to the shore, changed school, worked really hard, you know. Then he got picked up and went down to Taranaki. That's why he's been around for so long. But he, you know, he had lots of adversity, kept going, kept working hard, and deserved everything that he got.
And we will, and I'm sure everyone across the country will share their thoughts and prayers for the family. Well, rugby continued over the weekend, and the Premiership and the Championship got a little bit clearer. Announcement from New Zealand Rugby about how the season was going to be completed. There's going to be playoffs, there's going to be semis and finals. Not everyone's happy about it, but Hawke's Bay went down to Christchurch and they put one over on Canterbury. First time in a long, long time. But everyone's still on the hunt. That's the question. Everyone's still got the opportunity to make the playoffs in the Premiership and in the Championship. 5 now needs to go down to 4. So Southland, they may not have won a game, but they have an opportunity to get themselves into the top 4. And all of a sudden they can knock off Taranaki and win a championship.
Goldie, can you just stop there? North Harbour and Counties have not played.
So?
And you're below North Harbour.
I'm not. my team, Southland, is absolutely, I tell you what, they've been playing great rugby, and don't you dare say a bad word
they almost beat
about
Canterbury.
South. Exactly, they were right there beating Canterbury. I tell you what, there's going to be some interest over the next couple of weekends. The big question mark, though, is what's the future of the NPC? Because I tell you, someone who wasn't overly happy, he didn't know what was going to happen, was the coach of Taranaki, and it was Neil Barnes. And this was his reaction. Bitterly disappointed, not just for us, but every team in the championship. We're playing a season for nothing. There is no promotion relegation in 2021 now. Why don't New Zealand Rugby pull their head out of the sand and create a fair competition? What he's really saying is here, look, I want to see every team have an opportunity to become a national champion on every year. And I'll start with you, JK. Isn't that something we have wanted for a long time now? Since they've divided these two divisions up, surely we're still trying to find out who the best one single team is, and can we do it?
Yeah, look, I think there's two arguments, and I love Barnesy because he'll tell you exactly how it is, so I've got no issues with what he's saying. But for me, there's two arguments. There's COVID and the competition. And COVID means that this year is going to be unfair because North Harbour, counties and Auckland can't play, so you can't have promotion relegation, and I get that. But I also agree with him that it's ridiculous, this competition. Like, we should just have one competition. I don't know why they invented it anyway, and then they play across the... Like, it's just stupid. So let's put everyone back together.
You can understand his frustration there. Great graphic. I actually thought that was the bird he was pulling there with his finger out there, but it wasn't. So
he does tend to talk with his finger out.
Exactly. And the reason why I understand is because the way it's gone, you know, that template when you mentioned about the Southland, you know, the points table, that's how not to have a competition, because there's nothing really in it when a team has lost all their games and they've still got a chance of getting in. So I guess when you have those crossover games, which is here, they've been unbeaten this year. They're vying for a spot, you know, in the championship next year, or the premiership, or whatever it's sort of whichever one that is, the higher one. But he's frustrated at the fact that now is a really good time for them to maybe change something to say, well, let's have something for this year where we can actually have a winner of the whole competition, given 3 teams are out.
I think this is all about next year now. This is all about next year. I'd like to see a winner this year, but I think we've also got to take the context that his team's playing really well, and the fact that any given year there are sides, if they get it right, they can go on and win the title. So he's frustrated because he actually thinks he's got a team that is good enough to be not the 8th best team in New Zealand, the number 1 team.
I'm with Millsy. Let's wipe this premiership championship, because I mean, I didn't know, like, wouldn't it be the championship top one? The premiership, I never got that anyway. Didn't understand why they crossed over. I thought it might be a cost-saving thing. So that's ridiculous. Let's just put them all back together, have promotion relegation so the other divisions can come up. But this year, just right across the board, like Millsy said, let's just do that.
They did actually try this, and Mark Robinson talked about it earlier on in the year. One of their suggestions was that maybe they would go towards a number of different options. There is a potential conference model, which is what I think they are talking about and considering again. We socialised with some key stakeholders.
Obviously,
would like to do that in Auckland before COVID. They wanted more time to consider that, but they've pushed that back and being considered for 2022. My understanding is that what they couldn't get this season, earlier on this year, is they couldn't get the unions, NZR and the players to agree on what was the best format going forward, so they decided to push it out to 2022. So what is what is the best model going
What do you
forward?
mean they couldn't decide? What does that mean? What does that mean?
It needs to be unanimous?
So the problem is, it needs to be unanimous.
I sat on my bay window and was wondering who wasn't unanimous on this. I honestly did.
On your bay window?
On my bay window.
So anything with bay in it might have been... Yeah. Oh, no.
Hey, I'm just saying, I sat on my bay window,
Very cryptic,
mate.
Millsy, but I'm hearing you. So what you're saying is that 2 provinces voted against it, so 18 voted for it, and so it didn't go through. Yeah, is that what you're telling me?
Well, we got to a point though, but then the players felt that it wasn't fair across the board, so they decided as well it wasn't the best step right now. So they're pushing for this in 2022. Is that the best idea? Now, we've got to remember as well, though, these are the workhorses of our game. These are the guys that, the guys who play Super Rugby, they start in December and then they finish on the 1st, they're supposed to finish on the 1st of November. They're going to play an extra month this year. And these are the guys who don't get weeks off. They train every week. They show up and play most games, Mills. So you have to...
No financial sabbatical?
Well, no. And if you try and do a full round robin, there would be, I believe, too many games in the year. That's why 10 is an optimal number in and around semis and finals. That can be worked.
Yeah, OK, I get that, and I totally agree with you. So there has to be a system that looks after these players, these workhorses that earn a lot less than some of the others that are higher honours, right? So what we need to be able to do is go... But if 2 voted against it, it had to be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I don't have
You know what I'm saying? Like if it was 12 against...
Well, I mean, one of the things they've thrown out, Mills, they've talked about north and south, right? So there would have to be...
Bring it on.
But
And bring back the north-south too.
Yeah, we'll bring back the north-south. We can go on about that, but some of the North Island teams obviously would have to join the South Island. They'd still have to South Island. There'd have to be crossover games. There'd be playoffs, but it would enable us to have the most important thing.
Why?
Be able to have one champion, right?
Yeah,
totally.
At the top any given season. So the challenge is for them, right, is to get to that point, isn't it? The fact that we get past this. We should be dealing with this now.
But why does the
frustrations?
Well, the frustrating part now, what we're all talking about, is that they've had time to actually really think about it. I think Neil Barnes is one of them to actually act on it immediately and sort of really try and test it out before rolling it out next year, as opposed to getting to next year and then having another vote. I think that's going to be where it's going to get really, really difficult. The challenging part is going to be the games. And I think 10 is probably a suitable number. You know, if you can get 10 games and then work out who's got the most points, have playoff round or quarterfinals, whatever it is, leading into a final, you've got to get there. At the moment, we're getting teams from the bottom grade beating other, the guys in the top.
Are good enough to win.
Exactly. So why not just have one competition?
So we love change in rugby. And what do? We introduced some new laws. We've tried a few things. Ian Foster's not convinced that some of the new laws have worked, the likes of the goal line dropout, the 50-22. He doesn't feel they've changed the shape of the game to the extent was perhaps thought. I'm not sure added spice to the game. Now, I would imagine New Zealand Rugby and the All Blacks and all of the New Zealand teams would like to keep the ball in hand, introducing kicking. I look at this, JK, we probably haven't got a big enough sample size just yet, and people haven't had an off-season or an opportunity to develop the skills to make use of these, or should they just go back in the bin?
Have you seen the Bible? Have you seen how big the Bible is?
Sorry, we're talking about it later on.
That's
Dan
the other
Carter's
God.
1598.
That's the other God.
Sorry,
Later.
no, a different one.
Talk about the other God later.
OK.
Like, the Bible's like that, right? And so is our rule book. Did they take any rules out? We talk about this often. There's so many rules. Why is the game like it is? Because the poor old refs are going to every ruck. There's 18 rules. So they introduced this kick. I actually don't mind them, Mills. I like
50-22. Let's start there. Do you like it?
I like it.
Do you like it,
I
Mills?
like it. I think there's merit in keeping this. This is an opportunity here. I mean, you see it. It wasn't really what he was sort of after in terms of the execution, but he got a lucky bounce. But what that does is it then changes their on attack, and they actually were challenging as opposed to going to their defensive and kicking out. Nick White here done this on the same occasion. So rather than have another defensive line out to get out to then kick, to hopefully go out again to then attack again, why not have it like that? It's about fatiguing those wingers and fullbacks to make decisions.
Now, look, I like contestable parts of the game, but I think the one thing I struggle with is the breakdown. And we still haven't got to a point where we get continuity in the game. We've introduced laws to me, JK, because we can't work out how to fix that area. And there's no doubt to me the efficiency of players in terms of jackling and getting in over the ball and turning the ball over has meant now attacking teams are having less opportunity, finding less space, and are less prepared to take risk. So for me, I look at the kicking game and go, that's why we've had to juice it. What do you think might happen if you took out the jackler in the game of rugby union?
Well, my problem with the jackal to start with is it safe?
Look, this is a line break, and what do here? I turn it over.
Yeah, exactly. How legal was that? Did he come in from the gate? Probably not.
Let's talk
right? But you think about how many of these jackals now are actually turning into turnover ball and counter-attack. That's what it was invented for. All it does now is turn into a penalty. So we're stopping the game. We're getting 18 penalties because actually the guys, it's all borderline. You don't know whether they've got the knees on the player. And I don't blame the players. They are just playing within the ref's interpretation. The trouble is, it was 4 turnovers to create attack. What it's created is just penalties.
Yeah, and perhaps those examples are the perfect ones. It's not actually the jackler that's getting up off their feet after a tackle that's this one. It's the support player. So they've actually got a big advantage. When you make a line break, someone that's sort of coming backwards and sort of blocking a sort of attacking sort of clean out, he's actually got more rights to the ball. So how do they look at it? Do you take it out? Do you say you only can reward the guy that's tackled the ball carrier to then get up off his feet and not sort of reward sort of the jackler, the second or the third arrival? So then we get continuity in that. I think it just needs to, it does need a bit of a change. But then how do you reward defence? How do you reward someone that sort of hits someone and go on and put them backwards? Perhaps it's another way for them to start thinking.
I don't mind in a dominant situation.
Exactly.
But in a situation like that, there's no way you should be turning over possession because that's the advantage in line break that you need. We know that the NPC, that is the development of our game. It's the next tier below Super Rugby. at this time of the year, all of the franchises around the country, other than the Blues, because we've obviously got our restrictions right now, they are together working on their next tier. And Izzy was busy down in Christchurch checking out the Crusaders.
Jace Ryan, it's been a special week. There's been a lot of hype, I must say. There's been a lot of hype about yourself and and the players, but tell us a bit more about it, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Diggy. Look, it's been really special, actually. I always said that the couple of years I was involved with the New Zealand under-20 side was probably the most enjoyable step towards my pathway in coaching those young boys. They're straight out of school and they're free and they haven't got much hanging over them and they just play footy. And it's been really rewarding seeing all these boys from all these schools come together.
Oh, it's been a great week, Izzy. We've had 60 boys here from around our Crusaders region and even a couple from the North Island. We've been on the field, off the field, in the rain, in the sleet, and the boys have had to adapt. The week's all been about growing and learning. We've had a bit of a theme around learning to fly, and we really want the boys to spread their wings and embrace the growth opportunities that they get.
Rugby's a huge part of the week, but I know your biggest attribute is creating an environment, a culture that you want to come to, you're enjoying.
You got to love your job, don't you? And you got to love people you're working with and put a lot of energy into first having fun, two connecting with everyone, and then the rugby just falls into place. We're not going to change the way they play in 4 days. We don't want them to. We want them to love their point of difference and who they are as a person.
Talent has a fair bit to do with it, but it's much more about the character of the person, you know, how hard they're prepared to work. Are they prepared to get out here and help the management and help the coaches and be really open to the learning? They've had some world-class All Blacks here this week, and to be able to sit and listen and take that learning in is really important.
Traditionally, we've had club coaches, first 15 coaches come in and do the position-specific work, which is great. I was like, okay, what if we change that and we've got players that aren't going away with the All Blacks? So Owen Franks is around, Mike Cron and Tom Christie, Kelly Grace. Come in and coach, give the boys some knowledge, and then those other club coaches and school coaches can watch that.
I love your attitude. We want to be tight, we want to be firm.
I said to the boys last night, we'll have a meeting at 9:15, have some questions on leadership and we'll go through them with Richie McCaw. He's coming in to talk to you. And young Jack went, "You sure?" And I went, "You know, I rung him, he's coming in." "Oh, yeah, good."
Nice, mate. Save the best to last. I'm here. What do you want to get out of me, mate?
Yeah. Well, no, it'll be good. We'll have a good laugh. They obviously look up to you, Digger, as I do. And we're looking forward to having you in for lunch and sit around the boys and get tight.
And that's what it's about. It's all about giving back to the next generation here in Christchurch. And like myself, I'm privileged to be here, mate. And hopefully I can share some insights and some wisdom.
Free lunch, Ills. You waiting for your invitation?
Oh, he was happy, wasn't he? Oh, was he? Was getting a free
Is that legal?
It is everywhere else, JK.
What if Barnsley's blowing up about the unfair competition? What about the Blues not being able to do it because we're in lockdown?
Oh.
But that's an unfair advantage. How many Auckland guys are down there?
Actually, don't say that because they might have got a few. Be very, very careful. Time for us to use our thinking caps. And I tell you what, we've been introducing different people to give us our trivia question of the week. Bailey Mackey, well, of course, he's a part of the New Zealand Rugby Board, but also he was part of producing Vaxathon over the weekend, which we did a fantastic job at here in New Zealand. He's going to deliver our trivia question for tonight. What have we got? Let's take a look.
Kia ora, my name is Bailey Mackey. I am the director of New Zealand Rugby. And on Saturday, Ngāti Porou East Coast won their first game in 8 years after 54 games, Heartland games. Tonight's question is, who did they last beat and in what year?
JK's very confident he's going to get this one. So we've got all break to come together and talk and see if whether or not we can come up with the answer. What I will say is, though, don't forget to stay with us later on in the show. Hold on, it's going to turn upside down. Dan Carter is coming to talk about this new book. This has got some fantastic, fantastic photos about every single test match that he played in his career. And he scored points probably in all of them. I think he did. How remarkable is that? We'll talk to Dan Carter after the break and we'll get your answer on the trivia. We're going to work.
Kia ora, we're here at Whakarua Park, Victoria, which is the iconic home of Ngāti Pro Rugby. Today is our clash against Bulla, our last home game of the season and a celebration of all our clubs. They say here in Ngāti Pro Rugby is a religion and churches at 2:30 on Saturday, and I think you'll see all the pununga here today praising the sport that is rugby.
Oh, it means everything to us. We don't have much up the coast here. Rugby's pretty special. It's pretty much all we've got.
Oh, well, we've been following the coast for years, you know, through all the bad times and the good times. And I guess part of the attraction would be Māori, I guess. We don't see many of them blokes playing for Ngāti Pro East Coast, ever.
So recently I joked about the fact that Ngāti Pro East Coast are becoming an All Black magnet. We had Zach Guildford and then we were able to attract Jose home. And so the naming of Ma'anonu, it just seems to keep building.
Today it's going to be our day and we're going to have we've turned it on, blue sky, so hopefully it's a blue win.
They go high to Boswell, Wakefield at the front. He chucks it back to Parksy. Parksy goes for a run. He's got Tarangi Fraser throwing the step. Fraser fighting for the line. Beautiful run there by Tarangi Fraser.
Can't wait for Māori to jump on. Yeah, he's the man. He's the best second five in the history of rugby. Yeah, hope that.
I'm glad to see that our boys that are on the field are doing the job, and hopefully when Ma gets on, it'll be already a done deal.
Yeah, we've got the newbies on the park here in the sky blue jersey. Don't they look good? Calling for it. Fraser out wide, he feeds the dummy. Fraser will go himself. Beautiful work there from Ngāti Pro.
Came in and presented our jerseys to the boys, and he dropped the hint about 4 or 5 times, if we needed a midfielder, and I was like, it was all fun and games between the boys, and after that 5th time I was like, I think the boys might be serious.
Well, I saw the team a couple of weeks ago when they played Horford Carpenters. He texted me and said, we just lost. So I said, I think it's time to put the boots back on. And then he said, what about yourself? I said, if you play, I'll play.
That was the catch. So he wasn't coming unless I took the field with him. So I couldn't really say no and, deny the people Ma'anonu wearing the sky blue jerseys.
Just blessed to be here and given the chance to play with Jose again and experience Royal Tory and its culture. So rich history and lucky to take the field.
Well, I'll have to ask the bro if he's coming back because, I only take the field if he's here. So we'll see how the boys turn up, after the weekend.
Got to ask the coach. Yeah, I'm not ruling it out, so we'll see how it goes.
Jose Aguirre, you've got Mills's number. You've got Mills's number. He is available. I don't think he's fit, but you're available, right?
The only thing I'll be doing is jumping on that horse as well.
Oh, how good, JK.
Greatest after matches ever. The thing I remember about going down to the East Coast was like just the crayfish and the seafood and the hospitality and just the beauty of the people. So that's great, Amar. That's a fantastic thing to do.
It's given me more time to think about our trivia question. Bailey Mackey delivered it. East Coast victory was over Bulla. What was their first in 54 games? Who was their last one against and when? All right.
Do you want me to go?
You go, JK.
2014.
Yep.
Against Poverty Bay.
I'm going to say 2017 against West Coast.
I was going to say West Coast, but I was going to say 2013. Let's get the answer from Bailey Mackey.
And of course, the answer is their next door neighbour, Poverty Bay, in 2013.
You were a year out. Your year was out, so I got the year. Do I get half a point?
No.
I
win.
Well, hold on. No, but I got half a point.
Can't get half,
you were out of
it. I got half last
your
week.
maths, they said it was 8 years, and you got to 2007 and we're in 2021. 8 years, 8 seasons ago. Hey, I thought that was the easy part of the question.
I thought they were counting pre-season games.
Oh, right. That's awesome. That is so awesome. Well, the international game, it returns this weekend. The All Blacks are taking on the USA Eagles. I had the opportunity earlier on to chat with Dane Coles about what he's expecting on this end-of-season tour. Well, Dane, thanks for joining us on The Breakdown. You are back on tour with the All Blacks. You have joined them in Washington. First, I want to talk about, though, I heard an interview talking about watching them in the Rugby Championship. Did you feel as though when they were in Australia, you were missing out?
Yeah, big time, Goldie. I would have loved to have been over there with the lads, but unfortunately, there wasn't to be. But yeah, really enjoyed the games, mate. Sat back on my couch, had a couple of beers, and was a fan. But yeah, just proud of the boys' effort, and stoked to be back in the environment. It's been awesome.
Let's talk about rejoining the team. What did it feel like when you and the others got back within the squad, within the environment?
They actually haven't arrived yet, Goldie. So we've been here for a couple of days. The five of us just kind of stuck in our hotel. They're arriving probably in the next hour, a couple of hours. So yeah, a little bit nervous to be fair. Just get a feel of the group. But once we get stuck into training, mate, and get around the lads, I'm pretty sure we'll be pretty back to normal. But yeah, a little bit nervous.
So when New Zealand Rugby adds a test match every season, which they do when they're trying to broaden their number of games, when they schedule a test in America, how do the players react?
I think we're pretty a little bit freaked out at the start, obviously with the COVID stuff, but there's some real big protocols coming over here. So yeah, I think there's a lot of excited lads. Well, I hope there is when they land. I'm pretty excited. The guys that have travelled over earlier are pretty excited as well. So yeah, obviously things are going to be different with the COVID stuff, but mate, putting on the jersey anytime and getting out to a new country, a new stadium is always pretty special.
Look, we know sport in America is incredibly professional. Is there something unique about the sporting landscape that resonates with you in America?
Yeah, well, they put on a show, don't they? It's pretty big time. I think Sammy Kane had an interview the other day, and all the American journos were like building him up and do how the Americans do it. I think it's just unique, mate. It's a different atmosphere. That rugby's not too big over here, so hopefully we can showcase the All Black brand and grow it, and do something a little bit different.
You talked about things being obviously different with COVID. Does it feel as though, just in general life, though, from what you've seen since you've arrived, that maybe the United States is sort of moving on from it and dealing with it?
Yeah, 100%. We flew into LA. We were just kicking it. We had a couple of hours to get to Washington, and everyone, the airport was packed. The whole flight was packed. We flew into Washington and we went out to training just to field and, looking out the window, everyone's kind of just carrying on. So, obviously there's a few guidelines that we've got to follow, but it seems like life's moving on, mate, and they're just learning to deal with it and live with it and do everything necessary to kind of get back to normal.
Look, I had a good chat to Sam Kane last week. Of course, he's coming back off a long-term injury. You've just had that niggly little calf. I mean, when we talk about this 5-test match tour, what's specific in terms of the goal for you when you turned to New Zealand? What would you have liked to have achieved?
I think just being part of the group, whether I'm playing off the bench or helping the team prepare. I know you've got to maybe not lower your expectations. Like, I'm not going to come in here and start every game, I don't think, but there's still that I'm not here to hold tackle bad either. So I want to work hard and put pressure on the other 3 hookers like we always do. But just enjoy my time by working hard for the lads. And like I said, that's starting off the bench or helping the team prepare. Just be a part of it, mate. That's what I want to do, and stay injury free.
And you've seen a number of players already in this season be added into this All Black group. A lot of the younger guys. Are they the sort of guys that motivate you as well to keep pushing you to get better? And do you enjoy seeing their development at the highest level?
100%. The guys coming here and adding value, and they're not happy just to be here. They want to be, they're pushing guys to be the best, which is a great environment to be a part of when you've got guys with their attitude. Guys like Ethan Blackadder, who's been pretty special. So when guys are pushing, I suppose, the older grunch and want to play every week, it creates a real competitiveness amongst the group, and especially an old fellow like me. Like, I'm pretty keen to, better that or work with them and create a bit of edge amongst the lads.
Mate, this is not an easy tour and some serious challenges, and like you say, there's some restrictions you guys are having to look at. But is this pure and simply early on a week-by-week proposition? You're not looking too far ahead of yourselves?
Yeah, exactly, Goldie. Like, once the lads come in, they've had a big 6 weeks, they're pretty refreshed, so it's just important that we prepare like we always do, nail off the USA week, and then we travel to Wales straight after the game. So yeah, it's going to be different, mate, but it's exciting, and obviously there's a little bit of restrictions, but yeah, I think they had a bit of fun in-house when they had the COVID stuff over in Australia, so we'll be looking to do that and just create an environment that we're having a bit of fun but working hard for each other as well.
Yeah, look, you bring so much experience to the squad, mate. We're looking forward to seeing what contribution you, Sam Cane, Sam Whitelock, everyone can bring to the environment. The likes of a Josh Lord as well. Look, stay safe, look after yourself. Good luck this weekend. Thanks for joining us on The Breakdown.
Cheers, Goldie, mate. Always a pleasure.
Always great to catch up with Dane. And Jake, I've got to ask you, the fact that they had 3 hookers who have performed well, but I said to you in and around those South African games, his experience is incredibly valuable. There's a couple of big test matches on this end of your tour. Do you see him having a big impact, and is that maybe more off the bench?
Oh, I feel incredibly sorry for him. It must be so frustrating, Mills. You know, but he's X factor. You know he's got some challenges, because I think these young guys that have come in done a great job. But he is X factor. I mean, he knows when to score a try, he knows when to be out wide, he's just got that experience. So I just hope he stays injury-free, because it must be incredibly difficult for him. If he stays injury-free, I'd love to have him off the bench. Can he knock Cody off the perch? Well, he'll be trying, and that's what he wanted to create.
And Samasoni's been outstanding in his role. If we think about those guys who are on the plane, Sam Cane, Sam Whitelock, Josh Lord, when do they get their opportunity, Mills? Is it really there for them now, given the fact that we shouldn't have any issues with the United States of America? They haven't even qualified for the Rugby World Cup. Can't take anything for granted, but you expect them to roll these guys out straight away.
I think you do. I'm not sure about Josh Lord. I think they might, he might be just there for a bigger experience in terms of the whole culture, the whole environment. But when you look at those experienced guys, that's massive. Getting those guys over there, Coles and that, it's invaluable what they bring off the field. And so you roll them out there, and it's a good chance also for them to get a bit of game time. Obviously it's frustrating that he's had a calf injury and that, but a game like this can actually, get your rhythm back into things. Sam Cane's had a game in the Heartland stuff. He now goes back into the environment, so get them back out there in the lead up to what's coming ahead of them over in Europe.
Richie Mo'unga, is it time for him to get the reins back? Beauden Barrett filled that role until Richie came to Australia. Didn't get much of an opportunity. Look, are there players that need to make an impact? Because bottom line, the ones that went to Australia delivered. It may not have been convincing against the Springboks, but they certainly came away with a trophy. It's in the cabinet. Who's got a point to prove, JK?
The way you asked that question was like you thought he's incumbent.
I didn't.
And Beauden Barrett was just biding his time till he comes back.
No,
interesting.
Well, interesting he did, because his performances in the All Black jersey were very good. Yep. It led us to holding the Bledisloe Cup. His combination with Damien McKenzie was great. Geordie Barrett, however, put up his hand massively. Yep. Beauden Barrett got better and better with time. We talked about him getting in, so I think there are players.
Yeah, look, I agree with Millsy. I think you play everyone this week. I think they'll be fit enough. I also think you play the young fella, because you're probably not going to get another game. So just get him out there, or put him on the bench, bring him on late. I think we saw that footage. I think that was Patrick's first tour, wasn't it, 6 years ago? And they got him out there. So I'd play them straight away. I think Whitelock comes back into the captaincy roles, and I think Artie's done a great job, but he'll be happy. He'll just be freed up to play. And I think Dane said one thing that's really, really important. There is now real competition that Foster has created, and there's competition at 10. And they're both different players. They've both got X factor at different moments. With Geordie coming in and putting up his hand at kicking, that's going to be a real interesting run, right? Because Mo'unga loves kicking the ball for goal. So I just think it creates perfect scenario, because I'd put Mo'unga out there against the States straight away, and then it's all on.
I think in other positions as well, Sam Cane looking for game time, but so was Dalton Papali'i, who was really, really good in the All Black jersey. Mills, on the other side of the Pacific, there's a game going on in Japan, which I have great interest in. New Zealand coaches, Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown, up against Dave Rennie, and the Wallabies have been the big mover. Well, they have been on the world rankings. Have they been the big mover for you in terms of where they stand in world rugby? And can they go over and, I suppose, dominate this Japan side?
They need to. They need to continue on that momentum that they'd left sort of in the Springbok games and then obviously onto Argentina. They can't sort of afford to back off the pedal now, which they've done it in the last few years when they've sort of had big games and they've taken that momentum with they've won and beaten the All Blacks and then sort of gone back, a couple of steps. So in order for them to keep going and build that sort of momentum, JK, they need to absolutely go out there and dominate.
Yeah, the hardest thing for me for Japan is they haven't played. So Australia have come off a really good tournament. They're showing some confidence. But if Japan can beat a side that plays in the championship, it's probably Australia, just because they're not quite as physical as South Africa and New Zealand and Argentina possibly. So they'll play a good style. But has Jamie and Brownie had enough time, enough games to get them hardened? I don't know.
Is that the balance though for say Japan and the balance for Australia? Because you would expect that the likes of an England and South Africa would physically dominate and try and dominate Japan, but Australia are prepared to play that free, open style. And you make mistakes with the skill set of Japan, and we know what they've done in the past. Can they recapture in some way? It's been 2 years since the Rugby World Cup, though, for Japan. They were in a quarter-final. But they've got all their players available by the looks of things. They could be dangerous.
There's always that possibility that they can, because it's different. It's not an Argentinian side they haven't played for ages and they beat the All Blacks and they come in and disrupt you in a different way, physically and also off the ball. This Japanese side needs to get out there, and if they can get it and score a couple of quick tries off turnover ball and make things frantic, and the Australians perhaps aren't as, I suppose, experienced in their ability to actually counter that, then there is that possibility. That the downside for them is they haven't played Test match footy for a very long time, and that's way different sort of in terms of Argentina not being able to do it, because that style they brought into the All Blacks, that disruptive stuff, is easy for them to do. I'm not sure that Japan can actually rise to that level.
Oh, I think it's massive for the Wallabies, JK. I think it really is. If you've got all of this momentum going to the Northern Hemisphere tour, bottom line, you look at this and going, you know what, they've come so far. They've developed so many players. No, Marika Kurabiti, he's gone back to a Japan side. They've released him back to play, but they've got plenty of talent. But if you've got momentum in the Wallabies, you want to keep it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And, Dave Rennie's done a great job, right? I think they're well organised. I think they're showing confidence. I think Quade Cooper has brought them some balance. So for me, really, the Japanese will struggle. I think they'll struggle because they haven't played. And I think they'll struggle because the last 2 years, since the last World Cup, they were amazing because actually rucks were fast. No one could cheat against them. They had fast feet. They'd get that fast ball at ruck and they'd hit and run, which is what Jamie and Brownie wanted to do. Now, if you start cheating against them, lying on the ball, slowing it down, they struggle. And so hopefully there's a ref that's going to let it play a wee bit. I mean, when you think about the future of the game, we want everyone to be starting to play a little bit like Japan, that quick, fast, go, run people off their feet, just throw it around, and I hope they do that. But I think it's hard. I think Argentina suffered because they didn't have a competition like Super Rugby, and then I think they suffered at championship level. Not their fault, but I think, Japan will struggle, just not be test hardened.
Still looking forward to watching it. What I am looking forward to as well, after the break, it's always great to get an All Black great on the show. Last week was Sonny Bill Williams. This week, Dan Carter joins the show. This is his latest book. We will talk to him after the break.
Some more NPC action for you this week, where commentator Jeff McTanish had morphed into Sam Hunt for a second.
Sam Nock in space. Sam Nock will win the race. Sam Nock, too much pace.
This was a close call. Fletcher Smith almost got hit by a ball. In a game of rugby, I know. This was hot. This was surprising.
I've already had a double jab from Kaltanana today.
Say what? This is gross and unprofessional. Finish your dinner before you get behind the camera, you little pig. That's yuck. And as for this camera operator, he's looking in completely the wrong direction. He's way off. Dane Rumble was here. TJ almost combusted when he spotted Gordon Titchens playing tennis.
Oh, put that on. Put that on. Can we put that on?
Looks like someone was about to send a controversial text.
He's got the turnover, the open side. James Lynch, he eats these for breakfast.
He eats turnovers for breakfast. Yum.
see the man in number 20 there, Tom Martin, son of a very popular figure, Vince Martin.
Whoa, Vince Martin. I love Vince Martin.
G'day, I'm Vince Martin. This is a Tate Cellular mobile phone.
And finally, some Heartland rugby, where everybody's heart was in their mouth. Watch that little kid.
Going for the corner is Boswell.
Phew! Oh, that was off the ball this week.
Does well, does Taylor.
And I didn't think much happened on the weekend. You know, I didn't think a lot went on. How does he go about putting that all together? Genius, genius. We've got a genius on the show, and he's just released this book. And there are over 500 photos in here, and there's 1,598 points that Dan Carter scored for the All Blacks, which is, when you think about it, ridiculous. Absurd. But what I want to know is, did you hand select 500 photos of your career?
I did.
Awesome.
Good evening, Jen. It was a long process, and it was a great chance to take a trip down memory lane, because when you were busy playing, and all three of you would know that, you know, when you are playing, you don't often get a chance to look back and reflect. But having hung up the boots earlier in the year, I've had a good chance to do that, and obviously produced a book called 1598, you know, off the back of looking back, and, you know, extremely grateful to play alongside some great players and have so many amazing memories. So it was actually really nice just to put it all into a book.
You've put it into a book, and there's 112 test matches, and you've got a comment on every single one of them. How in the world? I can't remember what day of the week it is. Was it a research project, or were you picking up the phone and talking to people? Can you remind me what happened that day?
It's actually funny you say that, because before I even thought about doing a book like this, I would have said the exact same thing. But when you actually walk through it from your very first test match, it was really funny, because as I'd go through the test matches, I would always remember something that happened in that game or the week leading into the game. And so I've written a little comment. So I hand wrote all those paragraphs on every page, just about a memory that stuck with me leading into that test match, or something that happened during that test match, or it might have even been something different, like, you know, I remember my first test match as a father after Marco was born, so I remember writing about the emotions of putting on the black jersey for the first time as a father, and the different feelings I was having leading into that test match. So they're all very different, but it is funny when you go through this process, you remember little bits of that week or that game.
DC, retirement. I know I was just asking Mills, like, you played 18 or 20 years, I think 15 or 16, whatever it was, incredible career. How has it been just stopping? I mean, you laced up the boots for 20 odd years. What are you thinking of now? How are you making the transition? Not an easy time.
Yeah, you're right. It's not an easy time. And I was lucky near the back end of my career. I had various stages where I had time out from the game. So whether that was through sabbatical in 2014, where I had 6 months off. I also had a serious neck injury in 2019 that put me out of the game, you know, for a good 8 months. Even, you know, through COVID, it's given me a chance to kind of step back away from the game, and you soon realise things that you do miss from the game. And for me, it wasn't the physicality of the game. My body's really thankful, and even now that when I watch a game, I'm really quite happy that I'm not out there getting smashed around anymore. But there are certain things that you do miss, and I miss my teammates, that camaraderie that you have in the changing room, the banter, the competitiveness of always challenging and pushing each other, that real sense of that growth mindset of just wanting to get better every single day, and also just doing what you love. So I feel like you have to take a few of those things that you do miss, and you can never replace them fully, but you can put certain things into your life to help you with the things that you're missing being a rugby player. So, you know, you can play as long as you want, like I did, but there are still so many things that I do miss from the game. But there's not one part of me that wishes I was out there playing, and that for me just reconfirms that it was the right decision to hang up the boots when I did.
We're all agreeing with you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We are all 100% support that decision.
Dizzy, I know you've spoken about the memories on the field, but admittedly, when I flicked through the book in your early years, it sort of reminded me of some of the stuff off the field. And I noticed also you've got your favourite boots at the back, but on this occasion you haven't got your favourite jockeys. Now, you took the jockey range to a different level in terms of, the sponsorship. And I'll always remember in our early 20s, as little young 20-year-olds, when that first jockey contract came, you shared it with us. And we said to you, you didn't want to do it. But you said, well, should I offer an absurd amount? And we threw it an amount and you went back to them. And I'd always remember that as a big story, because you went back to them and then we didn't hear back from you. And the next minute you're back on this billboard. So you obviously took it up and some more. But was it enjoyable sort of remembering sort of those parts of being in an environment like the All Blacks?
Oh, yeah, it was. Geez, it's a funny memory, that one, because I shared it. There's no way I wanted to be on any billboard in my underwear until I talked to a few of you boys, and Steve Hansen goes, well, what are they offering? I told him. He goes, oh, we'll just ask 5 times what they want, and, if they say no, we don't want to do it anyway. If they say yes, then shit, you're doing all right. So I did. I took his advice as a young 21-year-old, and they were a little bit offended to the fact that I went back to them like that. But 24 hours later, they said, okay, right, let's do it. And I was like, oh, no, I have to go through with it and commit to it. And I still remember leading into a test match, somehow one of the photos that got leaked, and Justin Marshall, I still know it was him to this day. He had found a copy, printed it out and put it on the team room, and I was devastated to see it in the team room for the first time, my underwear. And I went straight back to my room and just hid in there for the next 24 hours. I was so embarrassed, but that's part of being in the team environment. You get brought back down to earth pretty quickly in environments like that.
I remember, New Zealanders will have a favourite of you, DC, because you were so amazing, but one of my favourites was actually that second test that everyone talks about in Wellington. But is there one moment that you hold really special as a player across your career where you go, wow, that was just special for me?
Yeah, a few spring to mind, and there's one on screen now. There's my first test match, and that one on the Lions that really put me on the world stage, where a lot of global rugby fans sort of understood what I was capable of. But it would have to be my last test match in the black jersey. Nothing's guaranteed in sport and rugby, and the fact I was able to finish my All Black career on such a high alongside some of my best mates, the fact that 7 of us all retired from international rugby or finished playing for the All Blacks at that moment on such a fairy tale finish. It was unbelievable to go through the journey, the ups and downs that we all went through together, and then to be able to finish on that night to create history in 2015 was, I still pinch myself today that I was able to sign off on that note.
Yeah, that's what it is, the last photos of those 112th Test match. I like it because you're finally standing on the right side of the ball, kicking with your right foot, which is outstanding. And I think it's a beautifully put together book. It's great to see your thoughts because, like you say, those are intimate memories in your career. To have you come on the breakdown, we can find this everywhere, right? It'll be everywhere.
Yeah, all good New Zealand bookstores. You'll be able to find it for sure.
It'll be worldwide, mate. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being us on the breakdown. We'll make sure everyone gets an opportunity to get themselves involved. Thanks, mate. Appreciate your time.
All right, cheers, team.
Did he share underpants?
Mate,
I
guarantee you there'll be new pairs most weeks. See, that's why he was so generous.
Didn't even have to wash them, mate. Just get a new pair.
Just such a remarkable player. And as you flick through, everyone's got memories, right, where they were at certain times, but 2011 in particular. He was such an immortal All Black. Just great to get words from him today.
Oh, it's awesome. And awesome to see him sort of so relaxed as well and enjoying life after rugby too. Obviously he's not keen to get back on the rugby field like Māori either, so it's good to hear.
Change the game. We talk about guys, we spoke about Dane Coles before, change the game. I think the first sort of complete first 5 we've seen brilliant, like Foxy was brilliant, lots of brilliant, but he was complete.
Set the standard, right? He set the standard for the game. Well, Of course, we've had and enjoyed some of our moments tonight, but this has obviously been a very difficult and sad day for the game of rugby here in New Zealand, and we want to send our own tribute to the family of Sean Wainui. He will be sadly missed by all of the rugby community and the sports community across the country. On behalf of us all at Sky, our thoughts go out to the family. Ko ngā whakaora nui, kei te whānau Wainui e tēnei wā.
Your land in the morning light.
I'm just happy to get out there and have a jam, really, eh? For the Chiefs Mana Brothers, eh?
The lines growing thin. Where I am, you begin. It's only natural to do. I feel natural with you. It's your smile in the marketplace, your touch when we meet again. It's more than it was at the start. Oh, come closer to